Today I'm gonna just wanted to film a chatting video while I fold some clothes. I have a lot of laundry to fold right now, and because #baby life, you have so much laundry. So I thought I would chat a little bit about the birth and a little bit of the postpartum experience, but mostly about the birth and how everything went. So yeah, we have Mattia here. Hopefully he stays quiet. If not, we might have to take a bit of a break, but yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments. I'll be happy to answer, and also don't forget to subscribe. I will try and post videos at least once a week, depending on what my mom life lets me do. Alright, so just to start off with, so you get a bit of a background, I was followed by a midwife here in Quebec. You can either choose to be followed for your pregnancy with a doctor or with a midwife, and if you decide to be with a midwife, you get to choose if you either want to birth at home, in a birthing center at one of their birthing houses, or at the hospital. Now if you are with a midwife, the deal is, well, basically it's an unmedicated birth, and you're followed with the midwife, and she's there for the birth and for all your appointments as well. Let's lift you up a little bit, shall we? Like that? You more comfortable like this? Alright. So yeah, I started at the beginning. My first appointments were with the doctor because I was on the waiting list to be with a midwife, and at around 17 weeks, I think, I started seeing my midwife. I was so happy. I mean, I was born with a midwife, but so yeah, I was born with a midwife, and I just didn't want a hospital birth. It's just not what I wanted for us, and I wanted an unmedicated natural birth, and I wanted to birth in water. That was my original plan. So fast forward, Mattia, I was at 41 weeks and still had no sign of labor. So my midwife got me to go to the hospital and do an ultrasound, and because they checked the level of amniotic fluid in the belly and see if it's okay to keep going or if they need to induce labor, depending on the amount of fluid there is, and also on the movements they see in the belly. So I took that, and my levels were still on the okay line, but they were on the lowest side. So they told me that was, I think I took that on the Thursday, and then yeah, I think it was on the Thursday, and they told me that if I hadn't given birth by the Sunday, I would have to be induced. So if I get induced, it means that I have to give birth at the hospital, because the midwives don't use any medication. So I would have to give birth at the hospital, and if my midwife was available, she would come to be as a support, but I would still have to be, it's called a transfer of care, and I would have to be taken care of by the midwife, by the hospital and the doctors. So I was a bit disappointed with that, but of course do whatever was best and safest for us, for both of us. So we waited, and in order to be induced, what they do is they place a balloon 24 hours before the induction, in order to prepare your cervix to be ready for the medication, and to be able to do the induction successfully. So that helps. So they, I think it was, yeah, on Saturday, they got me to come in at 12 because I hadn't given birth yet. They told me to come in at 12 and I would get this balloon installed. So I got that balloon installed. I came home and I started actually having contractions. Which the balloon is not meant to induce labor, it's just meant to dilate you. So once the balloon falls out, you're supposed to be dilated at a 3 or 4 centimeters, but it's not supposed to induce labor. But I got contractions, so either it was the balloon that did that, or I just naturally started my contractions. So that was on Saturday. I think around 6 I started having contractions. They were about 5 minutes apart, I believe, and they were quite intense right away, especially while I still had the balloon. So with this balloon, there's like a tube that comes out, and you have to pull on it so that it keeps pressure, and it usually falls out. I think she told me usually between around 5 hours it falls out. So my balloon fell out really quickly. It was I think it was an hour after we got home the balloon had fallen out, but that hour was very, very painful because I had contractions, and I had contractions and I had that balloon inside, it's extremely uncomfortable. So that was really tough. And then once the balloon fell out, I was really happy. I was in a good mood because I started contractions and I wouldn't have to be induced, right? So I called my midwife. I let her know that I was having contractions. She told me to just keep her up to date and let her know what's happening, and if they get more intense to give her a call. So I just stayed home. We went for a walk to try and get things going a bit further, and then I tried to get some sleep for the night. I was able to sleep a little bit. I kept having contractions about every 5 minutes. Then when I woke up, my contractions were a little bit more intense and a little bit shorter together, and so I called my midwife, and she came at my house and checked me, and I was 3.5 centimeters, and it's 3.5 centimeters dilated. So she just advised me to stay home and keep going and keep laboring at home until my contractions are closer together and I have more, they're more intense. So that's what we did, and then whoop. You okay? You did a little vomit here? You did a little vomit. Yeah. You alright? Alright, sorry about that. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so around 1 p.m. I think that we decided to make our way to the birth house. I was having contractions about every 2 to 3 minutes, and they were quite intense, and I didn't want to have 2 intense contractions in the car on the way there. So we went, and then so she checked me when we got there, and I was still only 3.5 centimeters. So right away, my midwife told me, look, like, you can stay here, and you can keep laboring here, go in the tub, because they have these amazing, so yeah, my choice I wanted to give birth at the birth center. So they have amazing tubs there, so she said, get in a bath and everything, but if you don't progress, we will have to transfer to the hospital. She says maybe we can check again around 5. So I was like, okay. And then I got in the tub. I had contractions again. Now they were coming closer and closer together. I was at about, I had about contractions almost every, I think at that point it was every 2 minutes. was very, very painful. Not gonna lie. But so at 5 she checked me again, and I was still only 3.5 centimeters. At that point, I had been in labor for almost 24 hours. So I was getting pretty tired, and the point that I was just not dilating, that was kind of defeating for me. So Elena, the name of my midwife, she advised me that we should maybe look for a transfer to the hospital, because I had to get some medication, and she also advised me that I should consider taking the epidural because my body needed to relax in order for me to be able to dilate. What she was telling me is that I was having contractions as if I was 10 centimeters dilated and ready to push, but I was only 3.5 and not even close to being ready. So I said, all right, we will transfer. So she arranged a transfer. When we got to the hospital, I think it was about 7 when we got to the hospital. It was a bit crazy. I was in so much pain, and just extremely uncomfortable. So I asked for the epidural. I got the epidural. They were gonna wait for the doctor. Then when they saw just how much pain I was in, they asked for the anesthesiologist, I think is the name, to come right away, to give me the epidural. So I got that, and I finally had a bit of relief. It was amazing to get that. I mean, I wanted a natural birth and everything, but in the turn of events, it just wasn't possible anymore. So I got the epidural, and then they checked me as well, because they just check everyone, and I was still 3.5 centimeters. My midwife came with us, by the way. She was with us at the hospital. And then my midwife left at, I think it was around 10 she left. They do shifts, so her shift was finished, and then she told me to just call the other midwife when I was at 10 centimeters, and she would come and be there for the birth. I was able to actually get a bit of sleep when I had the epidural, and at some point, I broke my waters. They didn't actually believe me. I told the nurse that I felt like a pop, and I felt water, and then she told me, oh, it's probably because on the epidural you can pee yourself, so she thought that's what happened. They checked, and I had a bit of water, but they said they touched and they could still, the head was there. So anyways, later on we found out that what happened is I didn't break my water, but the head was acting kind of as a plug, and the head, the water didn't come out, all of it. So the doctor came at some point and realized that he was posterior, which means their heads are supposed to face back towards your back, and his head was facing towards the front, right? So he wasn't positioned correctly. So she tried to turn him. She did that 4 times, and he kept turning back. You were a little bit of a hard one, weren't you? Yes, you were. Yes, you were. So he kept turning back, and so they got an ultrasound machine. It was really intense, and she had her hand, and she was trying to turn him so he would face the right way, because what happened is he was pushing in my back instead of pushing in into my hips. He was pushing in my back. so she tried to turn him, and it didn't work 4 times. She got an ultrasound machine to try and see how she could do it. In the end, she was finally able to turn him, but she had to kind of hold him in place. So while I was pushing, she would hold him and try and pull him out as well. Now his heart started to beat a little bit lower, so there was kind of a rush to get him out. And you know, I was open to anything they had to do at that point to just get him out. I remember at one point, this lasted for not very long, but he was pushing in my back, and I was in so much pain. It was hurting so bad. They were telling me, alright, you can push now, but I was screaming, saying I can't push because it was just hurting too much. So you know, so anyways, what they did is they gave me another anesthesia, kind of internal. I'm not exactly sure. They with a needle, they put some anesthesia in my cervix. Oh, don't mind me. Sorry. We have a little poopy pooper here. Yeah, so, and then I was able to push, and so they weren't able to, I wasn't able to just push naturally. As I said, she had her hand in there trying to hold him so he wouldn't turn back. And then she decided in the end, they tried to use the vacuum. The vacuum is like a, I don't know how to really explain it, but they put it on the head and they try to pull it out with suction, and that unfortunately did not work either. And then they tried to, they told me they were going to try forceps, so they took out forceps. Again, just to remind you, all on my birth plan it said no forceps unless necessary, no vacuum unless necessary. I don't want a natural birth, I don't want any epidural. So at this point, all of it was kind of down the drain, you know, everything had happened that I didn't want to happen. So yeah, they tried to use the forceps, and then with the force, they tried it one time, and then they were gonna go a second time, and then the doctor told me, all right, he has to come, because again his heart was kind of going lower. So she said he has to come out now, or else we'll have to go into an emergency C-section, and I obviously didn't want that. So so I pushed really hard, and they did an episiotomy on me. So he was finally able to come out, and they put him on my chest, and my husband cut the cord. I wanted delayed cord clamping, but for some reason that wasn't possible. I think that was kind of a rush to sew me back up and you know, do everything. I'm not exactly sure why, but it wasn't possible to do so. Yeah, they did an episiotomy, and yeah, put him on my chest, and it was the best moment ever. It's kind of surreal. You can't really explain how you feel like when they finally put your baby there after all that work. At this point it had been 39 hours. He was born at 6:16 on the Monday, and I had started my contractions. On Saturday night. So yeah, I was extremely tired, but then you get this like surge of hormones and just happiness. It's so hard to explain, but yeah, they put him on my chest, and and they were sewing me back up. I think, well, I don't remember this, but my husband said they took him from me and then put him on the table just to examine him to make sure that everything was okay. As I said, like, he was, you know, his heart rate was not very good, so I think they had to do a lot of, you know, to make sure that he was all right and not struggling or anything like that. So they did that. They gave him back to me, and then I was finally transferred to, what happened there? This is like, I think I will put this back in the wash. Yeah, so after they were done taking care of me, they put him, my husband took him, and we went to our room in the postpartum, and we were, you know, nicely taken care of there, and we had to stay for 4 days. I'll explain, maybe I'll do another video on my postpartum experience and explain why, all of that. So yeah, he was 8 pounds 2 ounces. He measured 56 inches, or sorry, centimeters. And he opened his eyes almost as soon as he was put on me, and he was, you know, he was healthy, beautiful. He screamed right away. He was just, yeah, it was amazing. And he did skin to skin with me, and then he did some skin to skin with his dad while they were taking care of me as well. So yeah, this is my birth story. I mean, I hope this doesn't scare anyone, because honestly I would do it all over again in a heartbeat to have him. However you give birth, you're amazing. Like, and I think woman that births a baby is just, it's just amazing. Like, we're able to do that. It blows my mind still that we're able to create a little human and then give birth to it. It's just amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me in this video, and as I said, let me know if you have any questions or requests or things you'd like to see, and I will try my best to do it. And hopefully, and also if you have any like comments, I'm just starting out, so I would love to know, you know, if you have any recommendations by my lighting or my videoing or anything that is needs improvement. I'd love to know as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll give you guys a little Mattia sneak peek. Do you say hello? Hello. Hello. Thank you. Do you say thank you for watching? Thank you for watching. Bye.